I hope the small coffee break was enough for you. So it's time for us to start. We've got a huge topic to discuss. It's fuel control in Violon. My name is Oleg Zharkovsky. I'm from a technical consulting team and also from the training team. And before we start some technical moments, please fill in this form, this one, yeah, and pass it to the others. And also, in the end, I hope we'll have enough time for the questions and answers. So just wait a little bit until my colleagues will give you the microphone, because this session is recorded. And I hope the record of the session will be as useful as when you are here. So everyone will hear the questions and my answers. It will be great. So let's start with the topic, fuel control. So what we've got here, we've got a fuel settings with fuel chart samples, fuel consumption by rates, fuel traffic, fuel, and more fuel. I know that it's one of the hardest topics in Violon, so I have decided to give you some samples, some charts to explain everything from the basics, and that is why let's start. So we've got several ways to control fuel. The first one, the easiest one, with no sensors, based on rates. And what are the advantages and disadvantages? We've got no self-detection in that case, and definitely we've got a low accuracy, but also it is cheap. No sensors, it is also always cheap. The next way is to use the fuel level sensors, and when we use them, we've got the feelings and self-detection. That's a huge advantage, but at the same time, we've got a low consumption accuracy, and the process of calibration is the hard one. Usually it's a hard one. But at the same time, we've got the third way, fuel consumption sensors. They've got no feelings and self-detection, but they've got the high consumption accuracy. So if you combine these two types, then you'll get the best result. But to say honestly, we don't have enough time to talk about the fuel consumption sensors. At the same time, there are not so many functions and options to discuss. So let's focus on the FLS, fuel level sensors. So talking about them, there are several steps to use them in Violon. They include the sensor settings, including calibration. Also, they include fuel consumption tab, 17 settings here, and mathematical model of correct consumption. But once again, we don't have enough time to talk about all of them, so let's focus on these 17 settings. And the first one, when we start working with FLS, is the filtration question, because definitely we'll have some fluctuation coming from the FLS. And these fluctuations, they are connected with engine vibrations, tank volume shape, rough road, and so on and so on. So there is no way to avoid it. Well, there is one when you work with stationary unit. But mainly we are working with a moving unit, so we'll definitely have this chart. But we've got the filtration in Violon, and this is how it works. So we can turn it on, and here you can see that if I increase the filtration level, then this chart will be smoothed like that. So it seems like the line is smooth enough, and we can work with it right now. But probably you think that if there is a filtration, then you can add as high level as you want, and it will be the easiest way to get the good result. But it's not, because if you'll set too big value of filtration level, then the data will be wrong on the output. So it will be very smooth, but wrong. So you should find somehow something in the middle. And usually we recommend the maximum filtration about 710. So if I see the higher filtration level, it seems like the FLS data is not good enough. So I won't expect much from this fuel level sensor in that case. how this filtration works, we use a median filtration in Vialon, and when you increase the level of filtration, the window here, it becomes wider. And after that, it just slides. It helps us to calculate the value in the middle. So if the filtration level is bigger, the window is bigger, the line is smoothed, something like that. Even after applying the filtration, we'll still have some fluctuations left. So we've got two options that can help us to divide the fluctuations from the fillings and sefts. And this is a rough filter, because FLS won't give us the high accuracy, so we need a rough filter, and it is just a volume. So if the fluctuation is more than 20, then probably it's a filling. If it is more than 10, then probably it is a seft. This is how it works, and one more option connected with the fillings and sefts. Sometimes the fillings, they are done in several parts. So you don't want, it is not necessary to see these different parts of the fillings and sefts in a report. So you can just use the timeout to merge them or separate them. So if the time difference between these two fillings is smaller than the timeout, then they will be just merged into one. So this is how the fill and sefts control work. And let's say that we have applied the filtration to the FLS data. We have done some basic fill-ins and sefts settings. And after that, we've got a good enough line on the chart. And we need to analyze it for the fill-ins and sefts. And we've got two algorithms for that. I have spent a lot of time on a previous conference to describe these two algorithms. So today I'm not going to pay much attention to it, but still I will just mention it. So the mileage-based algorithm, the first one, it is the easiest one, the default one, and it works in the following way. So we just ignore all the parkings, and we take only the point in the end of the trip and the point in the beginning of the next trip. We compare these 2 points, and if the level has increased, it is a fill-in. If the level has decreased, it is a seft. So this algorithm is easy enough, but we've got some situations when it doesn't work. Here they are. So this algorithm can't help us with the stationary units. There are no trips there. This algorithm can't help us with a long idling, because in that case, it will be recognized as a seft. And also, this algorithm can't recognize the difference between the consumption caused by additional equipment and consumption during the trip that is seft during the trip. But if we use a time-based algorithm, it can help us to understand these cases, and then the system will mark it as additional equipment work, and there is no seft. Everything is great. Here is the seft, because that is the line standing for the expected consumption during the trip. And here is the real one, so they differ, and it means it's a seft. And here we can understand that during the parking, there is a small consumption for the idling. Let's leave the questions answers to the end, okay? So this is how the time-based fuel algorithm works, and you can choose between these two algorithms in a pretty easy way. Mileage-based algorithm is used by default, and it's easy to configure, and it's used for the main part of the units. But if you've got the stationary unit, if this unit has a long interval of idling, this unit has an additional equipment, or drivers are smart enough to make a seft during movement, then you should switch to the time-based algorithm. One more point, probably, if you're not satisfied with the result of mileage-based algorithm, switch to the time-based. So it can be done with the help of these options. And with the help of detect fuel shaft in motion, you can activate the analysis of shaft in motion. So I hope it's clear enough. So one more thing about the algorithms, the time-based algorithm won't work if you won't create this mathematical model of consumption, mathematical model of expected correct consumption. And it can be done on the top sensors with the help of mass consumption wizard. As I have mentioned, it was described on the previous year, so you can just watch the webinar. And if you combine the knowledge from this webinar and from the previous one, I hope it will cover the main part of the fuel questions. So let's continue. We have passed through the 10 main options on the fuel consumption tab, but we've got some left. So let's pay attention to them. This is a real case. Sometimes due to the fluctuations of the fuel level, the final level in the trip is higher than in the beginning. So it seems like there is some kind of the error. And we can't avoid it because Vialon works with the data received from the tracker, data received from the sensor. So in that case, you'll see zero value in the report, zero consumption. But if you've got the mathematical model, then you can activate the option replace invalid values with mass consumption. And the system will calculate the expected consumption on this time interval, and it will be added to the report. So here is the alternative. The next option, some kind of a time filter. So we've got some fluctuations in the beginning and in the end of the trip because of the start and end of the movement. So these fluctuations, they can spoil everything, all the results in the report. And with the help of some additional time filters, timeouts, you can get the better result in the report. The one that I'm talking about right now is ignore messages after the start of motion. So if we calculate the consumption from here to here, it's just bigger than the real. But if we wait a little bit until this fluctuation is gone, then the consumption will be correct. So with the help of this timeout, you can get the result. The next time filter is connected with the stops. So during the small stops, there can be a huge fluctuation that can be recognized as a theft. But we can activate the timeout for the duration of the stop. So if the stop is too small, then we are not going to analyze it for the thefts. Easy enough. And here it is. The next option, the next time filter, is connected with the fill-ins during the trips. So due to the fluctuations, once again, we can get the fill-in during the movement. And there is an option to avoid it. So here it is, easy enough, but it can spoil the result. In that case, here is the real fill-in, but we have decided not to analyze the trips for the fill-ins. And sometimes the FLS is inertial, so the data is coming with a delay. And you can see that at the end of the parking, it's not maximum. Maximum is in the beginning of the trip. So we can add one more timeout to avoid these delays. And then the maximum will be taken from the trip, and the final volume of the fill-in will be correct, like that. And one more option connected with the fill-in and thefts. Sometimes filtration affects the data so much that the data will be wrong but smooth, as I have mentioned. And you need to combine the raw data and filter data. It can be done in the following way. So we'll detect the fact of the theft of fill-in from the smooth data, but we'll detect the volume from the raw data. So this is how it looks like. So this is some kind of expected fuel level, and we can combine with the help of two options, the raw data and the smooth data. So in some cases, the volume of the fillings and safts will be better. Just check it on some test fillings and safts, and you'll understand should you turn on this option or not. So we have discussed the main part of the settings for the fuel consumption, and I want to remind you once again the steps to use FLS. Here it is, the installation and calibration. It's not connected with Vialon. The next step, sensor setup in Vialon. The fuel consumption settings. We have discussed it right now. The next step is mass consumption model and the output. So I have focused on the third step, but also I want to talk a little bit about the output. I want to mention something that I can call a new features, because currently the fuel consumption is not the topic that we are diving deep and adding more features. But at least in the output of the fuel, we can see some new features. Here they are. I have mentioned that there is a way to show you the consumption with the help of the rates without the FLS, without the sensor. So you can set up the rate on the tab advanced in the unit settings. And here you can add the consumption rate. And previously there was only one consumption rate here. But right now you've got two of them, the seasonal rate. So you can set up the season and you can set up two different rates. So how it works, the system will just calculate the mileage and it will multiply it with the consumption rate. So you'll get the consumption for the interval without the FLS, at least the expected one. And one more thing is the fuel traffic report. This report is one of the hardest in our system because it combines the fuel data from several units at the same time, and it can help you to show the dispenser, the fuel truck, and the fuel receiver in one table. So this is how it works. We've got the unit fuel truck with FLS or the flow meter. And we've got the unit with FLS and card reader. So this combination of sensors will give you maximum from this report. So in one line, you'll see how many fuel was given from the fuel track to the vehicle, and you'll see the result of the filling algorithm, filling detection for this unit. So you'll see the difference even in one table. So 90 liters was given, only 80 was received. We've got some questions about this 10 liters in that case. So this is a special table, and I hope if you play with it, you tune it, it has a lot of settings. Anyway, I can help you with it. But as a final result, you can get the combination of tables, combination of safts, fillings, and counter in one table. I hope it will help you. Well, that's me. It seems like we have gone through the main part of the settings. And if you've got some questions, probably it's time to ask. I'm ready to answer. Don't forget about the microphones, yes. Just wait a little bit. We've got a question here.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I was about to ask about the fuel theft and fuel consumption on the previous few slides. According to the expected fuel consumption
Yes.
and value of fuel consumption, where we can choose or set up the expected fuel consumption, or how Vialon recognize the expectation?
So you're talking about the time-based algorithm, the expected consumption, yes?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go back to it. The easiest way is to look through the webinar, but I hope we are not going to do it. Let's talk about it with the help of this screenshot. So on the top sensors, you should click on the mass consumption wizard. And here you've got a special window with the rates. Here you should add them. So these rates, they are used to create the basic mathematical model. It will be based on the speed and season. It's not the full one, but it will be something like an example for you. And you can add as more other sensors, as more other factors as you want. We've got a special type of sensor. With the help of it, you can include the dependence of the consumption, dependence on the temperature, dependence on some angle, and so on, depending on weight. So you can add as many sensors, and your mathematical model of expected correct consumption, it will be more complex, but it will give you better results. So just create the basic one with the help of the mass consumption wizard, and then use the example. There will be 3 sensors created. Use them as an example and add other factors. Okay. The next question, please.
Here's where I get a little bit confused. We have this mass consumption wizard.
Yep.
But then you have in the advanced, you have another one.
Yes.
So when this is all being calculated, who's being used, where, what?
Okay, got it. That's a correct question because we've got different ways to show you the fuel consumption in the report. And these columns, they are named almost the same. So it is like consumed by FLS, consumed by rates, consumed by mass, consumed by, and so on. So we are talking about two different columns. The first one is consumed by mass. This is stand for the mass. And the second one on the advanced tab is consumed by rates. So you can set up both of them and you can compare them and choose the one that is closer to the real consumption. Just combine it, test it, something like that. Yes, it's 2 different algorithms. Any other questions? Just wait a little bit for the microphone. Sorry. Go on.
I noticed that you've got the seasonal option on there. What about things like where you've got a truck and it's driving without trailers, and then it's got 2 trailers, like a B double, full trailers on it. It's going to be burning different rates when it's fully loaded as opposed to not loaded. Is there a way to handle that with the fuel consumption?
So, if I understand you correctly, it's one more factor that can affect the consumption, yes? So you should have some kind of sensor that will include the effect of this factor. So you should create probably the weight sensor or something else, and based on the value from the sensor, we will change the expected correct consumption. And in that way, we'll compare the FLS data with other model, something like that.
Okay, and then the only other question is, we have seen different devices give different data on the same vehicle for the most part.
Yes.
Are there devices you guys would recommend over other devices that are more accurate in your eyes?
I need to check who has paid me for the advertisement. No one, so I can't recommend you anything, and probably you should talk about it with the manufacturers. If I'm not mistaken, they will be here on the 3rd day of the conference. So ask them this question, share these opinions, their opinions, and your opinion on our forum. Also, you can ask other partners there. But to say honestly, for Vialon, there's no difference. For us, it's just math. I mean the mathematic. So we can work with anything. So we've got a question. Here is your microphone.
In some cases, if you have a fuel truck or so, you can have multiple sensors installed in the same truck. So how can you compare the data coming from different sensors, or how can you average them to know the real fuel level inside the truck?
That's a huge question because it depends a lot on the volume and on the shape. It depends a lot on the way how the FLS is installed. So here are some basic things, like if it is just a standard tank with 2 FLS here, so in that case, we can calculate the sum of them. So fuel 1 plus fuel 2 and divided by 2. So we'll calculate something in the middle, because if the unit is moving on the slope, then this one will show you more, this one will show you less. The middle is correct. But that's a basic case, because sometimes here is the form of the fuel tank, and here is 2 FLS. The formula will be the other one. Here is one more form of the FLS, and so on and so on. It is impossible to give you the general formula for all the cases. You should contact our support team, or probably me directly, and I'll try to calculate something with you. It's interesting, it's mathematics.
Okay, so you can have different, you can apply different formulas based on the shape
Yes.
of the tank.
Based on the volume and shape, we should apply different formulas to calculate the final one value that will be used further in the reports, algorithms, and so on.
Just one more thing, the fuel data here is available in the fuel consumption tab, in the sensors tab, in the advanced tab. Don't you think this is a little bit confusing? Why don't we just keep all the data together in one tab, like the fuel consumption, for instance?
Well, to say honestly, I've heard that there is a plan to move the fuel consumption settings to the sensors, but I hope we are not recording, because it's not 100% true. But probably it will be done. Yes, I know that we've got a lot of things to be done better in Vialon. We are on our way, just wait a little bit. Anyway, we're ready to help you with the current situation, with the current settings. We'll try to explain it better. Okay, just pause the microphone, please.
Hi. Regarding the settings, right, you mentioned that there's one in the sensors and another one in advanced. But in sensor, when I contacted support, they asked me to create a ignition sensor, and then the consumption is actually inside. So there is 3 places for me to set it. So which one should I follow right now?
Well, first of all, you should follow my recommendations, because I'm the cooler than support.
Yeah, that's what I followed you, and the support told me a different story.
But the point is that it is the same. So if you fill in the mass consumption wizard, here you can write in the first line consumption 2 liters. So after clicking on OK, the system will create the ignition sensor for you. It will create it, and it will place this value into the ignition sensor. So this is 2 different ways to get the same result.
Okay.
Another question? Here it is.
It doesn't have to do especially with the fuel consumption, but with the kilometer calculation.
Please repeat, sorry.
It's not exactly with the fuel consumption. It will have to do a little bit with where you're getting your kilometers from.
Okay,
Because
it is also connected with mileage.
Right.
That's correct.
So because you got many places again where you get this information. You can get it from the GPS, you can get it from a sensor, you can, at the end, if you ask me, I don't know which one is being calculated. You have an explanation on the website, on the manual, but even there, sometimes you just make a little change and you don't know where is it coming from then, at the end.
If you are talking about the mileage only, then you should go to the general tab, and there will be a mileage counter. So there are no alternatives. Like what is chosen in the mileage counter, then it is used.
No, because
further.
you can change the trips. In the trips,
Yep.
if you go to the where's that one?
Trip detector.
Under trip detection, you can actually tell them to use another type of sensor there also.
Yes, but it's not connected with the mileage, it's connected with trip detection. It's 2 different algorithms that can be based on the mileage sensor or odometer. But the point is just to stop further questions about the accuracy. Probably it will help you to understand it better. This mathematical model is created to be compared with fuel level sensor. And if you remember, the fuel level sensor is not the accurate one. So if we create 80% accurate mathematical model of consumption, definitely it will be enough. Because our FLS is not always 80% accurate. So if the mathematical model will be better and better, and it will be 100% accurate, and you'll know all the factors that affect the correct consumption, the expected consumption, then you will take them and compare it with FLS. And FLS has low accuracy, so there's no need to make our mathematical model too accurate. It won't affect the final result. So even if the mileage is taken not from the mileage sensor, but from the GPS, well, it won't affect a lot.
If we don't get less than 1% accuracy, they won't buy the stuff.
Well, then it seems like this meeting is useless, because I never expect 1% accuracy from FLS. But still you sell it somehow. Just tell me, how do you do it?
No, we get it. We get the 1% or less. And if we don't get it, we don't sell.
Do you mean the 1% from what volume, for what type of the vehicle?
Up to 150 gallons. That will be around 500 liters.
500 liters. So accuracy is 5 liters.
Yep.
5 liters for 500. Probably you should be here on a stage explaining me how it works. Because to say honestly, if you have several FLS in this tank, if the road is not rough, and I should mention a lot of other factors, then probably we can do it 5 liters in that case. And the filtration is high enough. But based on the practice, usually the minimal volume for the filling and theft is around 15-20 liters. It can be better, but in most cases, it's not so accurate, unfortunately. So this is a special case, and here is one more person that you should probably contact about the fuel. He'll share the experience, and I'll definitely try to find something new from you.
I need to talk to you because we have a truck right now in our office that we're trying to make it accurate, and we're getting around 2.5%, and we need to get it down.
Fuel topic is one of the topics where you should dive deep into the exact example. So I have shared the main idea with you, but we should check once again what is the volume, how many fuel level sensors do you have, what is their accuracy, what filtration level have you used. I'm going to create the video that will show all the steps, but definitely on this conference we'll talk with you and we'll check it. I hope I will help you. Acceptable accuracy level is the one that the customer is ready to pay for.
What's some standard accuracy level?
Unfortunately, once again, I can't give you any exact values. It depends a lot on the volume, on the shape, on the type of FLS, on the number of FLS, and so on. So if I'll say that I saw the cases with a 3 liters accuracy, you will expect it from every type of FLS, 3 liters. But in some cases, everything that you can get is 40 liters, unfortunately. So it depends on a lot of factors. This topic is too hard to give you one exact answer, unfortunately. One more question here. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. The question is regarding the temperature of the fuel, because we have had some issues recently because of the high temperature we met in the south of France, for example. It was more than 40 degrees Celsius. And when the temperature of the fuel decreased, it sent a notification about theft, you know?
Yes, you mean the connection of the volume with the temperature?
Yeah. Is it something we can configure in the fuel consumption table here? Or may you made something wrong? I don't know.
Yes, there is an easier way to do it. We've got a special type of a sensor that is called temperature coefficient. So it affects the FLS data based on the temperature. Everything you should do is calculate the coefficient for it. So depending on the temperature, it will affect the volume of the FLS data. So just try it. We can configure it with you during the conference.
It means that we must configure a new sensor.
Yes, one more sensor based on the temperature.
Yeah.
Yes, and it will affect the FLS data. So something like the combination of two sensors. We've got one more question here.
It was more of a comment, really. We have a bit of hands-on experience of installing FLS, and the time taken on installation has a dramatic effect on how accurate the information is going to be.
Yep.
So we had to do 10 liters at a time and take a reading, 10 liters, take a reading, because it wasn't a standard square tank.
Yep.
So that will increase your accuracy. But what I've taken from this is, if you're looking for consumption, you don't really want to be using an FLS. You should just be using the vehicle campus if you can.
So that's the secret that was shown in the beginning of my presentation. The only way to get really high accuracy in consumption is to combine the FLS and the fuel consumption sensor. That's right. But still, in some cases, if you work on the calibration procedures, spend enough time on it, when you take into consideration a lot of other factors, FLS will give you the good result. But still, the best one is the consumption sensor, specialized one. One more question here. Just wait for the mic.
For the past few years, we noticed that there is some differences between the summer and the winter fuel. Is there any easy way to recalculate it because of the, what is the English word?
Are you talking about the mobile client?
Sorry?
Are you talking about the mobile client?
Mobile?
Yep.
No.
No, but what is not accurate? Please repeat or place your microphone closer to the mouse.
The fuel.
Yes.
Because of the, what was the viscosity. Because of the fuel viscosity, it's a bit different between the winter and the summer one.
Okay.
So there is differences between the volumes, depending of the winter or summer.
Yeah.
It's diesel mainly one.
Okay, so
easy way to recalculate it.
The easiest way to recalculate it is to follow the recommendation given over here, like use the temperature coefficient. There is a special sensor. It can take into consideration the temperature, and it will change the values coming from the FLS. So depending on the temperature, it will just make the calculation better. That's the first way. The second way, depending on how you work, you can probably add some mathematical, some sensors into the mathematical model. Or you can add the rates, like the winter rates and the summer rates. So 3 ways, depending on what you choose, you'll get different results, but they're all connected with winter and other cold seasons. Any other questions? Over here.
I just want to make sure when we talk about fuel level sensor, you're talking about physical sensor drilling? Or are you talking about the vehicles, the fuel level sensor that comes with the vehicle?
So honestly, I think that if you work with a fuel level sensor, you should install it, because the one that is coming with a vehicle as a basic, based on my experience, it's not accurate enough. But still, you can try it. You can make the accuracy of it even better. Here is other opinion. Let's share it. That's okay. That's why we are here.
I agree with him completely, because there's a lot of people out there that will try to compete with us, installing with the fuel sensor of the vehicle, and they will tell the client, "Oh, listen, no, we can install with we don't have to draw, make a hole on your tank.
Spend money on it.
Don't spend more money. We'll do it with us." And I remember telling that client, "Okay, if you're willing for that 15%, 12% inaccuracy, it's fine. But the only one that will give you, going back 3% then,
Okay.
on the FLS, it will be the one installed. Yes, drilling.
And in
How safe it? Huh.
everything is dangerous if you don't know how to do it.
We've installed 5,000, 6,000 units to this point.
Okay, so once again, if you need to get the accuracy from FLS, install it. But be ready to spend enough time on calibration. Be ready to take into consideration the seasons, the temperature, other factors, and so on. So it's hard work, but it's worth it. And you can ask us, we'll share the information, even more information about the algorithms. I hope the result will suit you. So, anyone else? Any questions? Probably the other questions you can just ask me during the other days of conference. You can find me in office. You can contact me via the email, and so on and so on. We are ready to share the information not only about the fuel, but about other topics. But this one, I like it. This is the hard one. So if you are ready, contact me. Thank you for the attention. And if I'm not mistaken, we've got a coffee break, something like 30 minutes. It should be written in the end of presentation, but just believe me, we've got a coffee break. Thank you.